Well, how do, folks? How do? Hope everyone's doing well. So, just want to hang out with you a little while tonight. Had some things on my mind and kind of like want to think out loud. And I warned everyone on the Twitter that this discussion would really be on topics that aren't really popular. But before I get into it, I know some of you click on anything I put up on posts. So, this morning, this will be the only specific market stuff apart from just general commentary about the effects of what may be coming in the weeks and months and maybe even days. But this morning, I was working with my youngest son, and I give him pretty much the mouse. And I say, based on what you think you see right now, which is very limited, folks, it's very limited. I tell him, I said, okay, what do you think it's going to do? And if you think it's going to go up, you click the buy. If you think it's going to go down, you click the sell. And then I want you to explain to me why you still think it's going to keep going in the direction. And then when you think it's wrong, you click the opposite of whatever you did, buy or sell. Because I want him to be paying attention to it. And one of the things I've learned by teaching him, he's very young, he's 15, and he's the definition of innocence. Like he is the most innocent 15-year-old boy you'd ever come across. He's not your typical, you know, he's in the video games and he has his own little YouTube channel, but he doesn't have like the cares of the world like everybody else does. And I want to be very careful how I nurture him and bring him up in this because my older ones, I'm like, here, it's about making money. Let's go. Let's go after it. This one here, eh, he's not really interested in the money. He just wants to be able to do it good. Like he wants to be like daddy. And I think that's cool. So I'm trying not to be the inner circle trader, that guy. I'm trying to be dad that knows how to do something, and let's try to be tender about doing it and not try to stoke any kind of ego because he has no ego. He has no characteristic at all. Like I have two sides of me, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And I know some of you are all used, well, let's be honest, everybody expects Dr. Jekyll to be put aside here, and Mr. Hyde usually shows up on the live streams. I don't think he's going to appear tonight because it's a discussion that, well, you'll see when we get to it. But this morning, my youngest son, we were working with the E-mini S&P and back and forth with the NASDAQ. And I explained to him, I said, listen, just watch what that does right here. I want to see, and I wanted to see it take out the 30 level. And it didn't quite get down there. You saw that fail this morning. And I was explaining to him, much like I was showing you, that that's a high resistance liquidity run, meaning that if you look at the daily chart on E-mini S&P, you'll notice that it was primed to go higher. It's really likely to present that run above the previous high, that type of scenario. And all I was trying to do is capture just a small little run below the lows because I felt that that was warranted. It could have done it. And I also wanted to show him how hard it is to do a trade and trust it versus a low resistance liquidity run. So a high resistance liquidity run signature is where you have a market that has a balanced price range that it has to work through. Now, a balanced price range is generally a formidable barrier to price getting to liquidity. So now it's not impossible to navigate, obviously. I mean, you can find first profit, sometimes a second partial, before getting through a balanced price range that would constitute a high resistance liquidity run. Don't let me throw you off by saying resistance liquidity run, thinking that it's only a buy, like it can't get through an old resistance level. When I say high resistance, it's both. a market that's trying to go higher but fails to get into a pool of liquidity above old highs, or a market trading low that's having difficulty breaking below to get into a sell side liquidity pool. Okay, so the way I taught the mentorship and also what you've learned in the YouTube model is that it is a low resistance liquidity run that you're hunting. Okay, so I was showing the distinctions between that this morning, and as I mentioned this morning, or later on this afternoon, I said that my youngest son, he wants to click, like he wants to do something and then look at me like and get the nod, that dad does, like, good job, son, you did good. But he's really not putting any real thought behind it because he's too new. He's very, very new. And I'm talking like last weekend new. But he wants to see what it looks like to be in the move, click something and see the effects of it. So to try to cultivate that, but not also inspire him to worry about the demo money, that type of thing. I don't want him focused on that. I want him focused on the delivery of price, and is it something that he can acquire a skill for? Reading, where is it likely to go? Where's the draw? Is it likely to continue? So this morning I was working with him. I was trying to explain to him how it's not important for you to be right now. Okay, and this is a lesson for some of you also. If you're really new, many of you are very hard on yourself, and you beat yourself up saying that, hey, I should have done better than this. I'm really disappointed in myself. And you speak with very self-defeating language about yourself. And it's a real hard thing to get through if you continuously do that. And it's not reasonable or realistic for any of you to feel that way about yourself in any endeavor, not especially this, because it's very hard, because you're competing with the world's highest intellect. The market itself is algorithmic. And then you have yourself, your personality characteristics and flaws. All of us have them. Well, you don't want to have that self-defeating mentality, being cultivated in your language and self-talk about yourself. So I see that as a potential barrier for my youngest son. Like, he wants to see it work like a video game. Like if you go to a video game, like for instance, Call of Duty, okay, there's certain maps that he knows really, really well, and he can work in that really, fluid. Just like the other game he likes, Fortnite. Okay, so he gets in these certain, he does well because he's familiar with it. He wants that familiarity to be there immediately in the charts. So the analogy I'm using is just that with him. So where I'm usually talking about like a sniper when I'm teaching adults, or I'll talk about programming and languages and how algorithms are seen in the world like a recipe. If you want to build the perfect blue ribbon chocolate cake, you need to have a list of ingredients. If you have blue ribbon list of ingredients and a procedure to take this ingredient, mix the dry ingredients then with wet ingredients, and then put the oven on this temperature, put it in this pan this way, and you should get a reasonable outcome that is predictable. It should be a reasonable, well, depending who's doing it, you should be very close to what the recipe calls for as the end result as a chocolate cake. Okay, and that's an algorithm. Okay, and when we try to teach as mentors, we try to find ways to bridge that gap between the unknown and the learned. And with him, my youngest son, I'm trying to speak in a language that admittedly, um, video games are not really my thing. I'm a PS4 kind of guy. I am a Call of Duty kind of guy. Battlefield, I play that too. Um, but I like a lot of, games like Splinter Cell. Okay, I love Splinter Cell, and I love the Resident Evil series. And those pretty much are it. I don't do any sports games or anything like that. But I don't play Fortnite, and that's like his thing. And he like Dead by Daylight. And I know some of this is like completely not important to most of you, and you're probably already bored, but I already warned you coming in. So I'm trying to find a way to stay engaging to him where he eventually treats this like a video game that he's grown accustomed to. So price delivery, if he continuously does this exercise with me every day, I make him do it, you know, right in front of me. He has to make a decision right now. And he doesn't have me expecting and lording over him, you get it right. I want him to just engage, because if he pushes the button and then he watches what it does, I want him to be thinking as the chart is printing, as that candlestick's going up and down. I want him to be receiving that information and drawing an opinion on that. Does it feel like it's likely to continue? Now, between you and I, even if you are a neophyte with me, you probably looked at charts more than he has. It's pretty evident. He's only started with me last weekend. But I need him to understand looking at price is how you get good at this. Not watch a video or listen to dad explain something. And now I'm ready to go out there and press buttons and get money. So that's not realistic either. So some of you do that with yourself. I watched the entire 2022 mentorship, Michael. I watched it. I'm excited. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try trading it with a live account now, skipping the entire process of back testing it and then tape reading, where you're just watching without pressing the button, and then forward testing it with a demo, and then waiting for 6 months of consistency with that. So it's a graduated progression to you eventually getting to the point where you would ever consider putting live money at risk. And unfortunately, that's not a popular thing. And I'm ignoring all those facts and procedures with him, because if I can keep him fixated on becoming compulsive about reading where price is going to go, where is it drawing to, everything else will be easy, which is exactly what I've taught you. You have to be looking for where's the market likely to go to next. Because if you know that, that gives you what? That gives you near-term bias. It doesn't necessarily have to be the daily bias. Okay, the daily bias is where the bulk of your leverage should be in alignment with. And what do I mean by that? If you're bullish, okay, if you're thinking the market's going to go higher, that's not something that would keep me from taking a short. Like, I can go short in that. I can be nimble to a degree. But if you're really trying to focus on having your maximum, not that I'm trying to inspire or instigate you to go out there and try to over leverage, but I think that if you're going to be doing that, like for instance competition level trading, okay, you're using your maximum level of leverage and you're trying to get the most return the risk you're taking on. High end of leverage that you would ever employ, that should be in alignment with your daily bias. Now, if you're looking at drawing liquidity right now for this session, there's a session before New York session. There is a session that we look at as London. You can trade the indices overnight in London. Okay, there's plenty of stops that take place between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to trade just in the New York session. I lean heavily on the New York session because there's a lot of information that you can draw from that's seen by studying what London has done overnight. But in this environment right now, the market is so volatile. Like, there's a lot of movement. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that you or even my youngest son would expect. And sometimes I'm surprised at the level of volatility that comes into the marketplace because, like I said, we are in unprecedented times and the market's going to do exaggerated things. And we saw that today, where it was wild. Just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So it took out yesterday's high. And then it went 20 handles or so right above yesterday's high, and then gave up the ghost and collapsed and went back down to where it was prior to running up. So yes, pro chargement part, I was right today. The idea of no profile that's likely to be a seek and destroy is a knack thing. It's an experience thing. But I do give you rules to anticipate that, and it's mentioned in core content. You have exposure to that now. But there is no clear cut, easy silver bullet. This is the way it works every single time. It just means that you have to have time doing this. And you might look at today's profile, say on a 5 or 15-minute chart from the beginning of the morning to where it closed, and say, well, I don't see that as a seek and destroy. I do. I see it as a seek and destroy. It's going way outside the boundaries to get liquidity and then coming right back into the middle of the range. And we saw that happen in previous days' high. Now, this is the last part of the technical stuff for trading, and we're going to go into tinfoil hat discussion stuff. So you're welcome to excuse yourself if that's not your cup of tea. And I'm not offended by it. It's something I just want to talk about and get it off my chest, because I'm probably not going to talk about anymore, because as I'll refer to it in that portion of the discussion. But today, I have to wet my whistle. And for those that are asking or thinking, I'm drinking Evian water from the French Alps. It's not a paid advertisement. So this morning, I wanted to obviously engage and show my son what he could look to trade like in the future. And I said to him, I said, Dad thinks it's going to run towards yesterday's high, but I'm not sure. But I have things I have to take care of for this house I just purchased, and my attention is going to be elsewhere. So I told him, I said, we'll study what it does after the fact, and we'll go in and look at it and see what it did. So we went through the charts this evening before I came here and started talking to you, and I explained to him that this is what it did, this is what it looks like, and he goes, I want to move like that, Dad. He's just like all of you. I want to buy 36 and ride it all the way up to 90. I want to do that kind of trade, Dad. How do I get that kind of trade? So that lure to be in the big moves, that comes obviously by looking at it and getting excited and fearing missing the move. Okay. And some of you might look at today and say, okay, yeah, he was able to engage and he did something on the downside, but he didn't get the upside. Okay. I'm not interested in being in front of the charts or worrying about any trades if I'm doing things that's going to have my attention elsewhere. So just like I explained to him when he does his homeschooling, I said, I don't want you looking at the charts if you're in class. So if you're doing work for homeschooling, you cannot be looking at charts. Okay, so I'm not trying to teach you to be a workaholic where you're dividing your attention from homeschooling and then looking at charts, because you're too young to be worrying about trying to impress Dad. You got plenty of life ahead of you to do that as an adult. Right now, you focus on your school, and then after that, you do these exercises to hone your skill. But don't be in a rush to impress Dad, because it takes time. I already am giving him permission, so that way he kind of like lowers his expectation on himself. Because the worst thing I could do as a dad and or a mentor, which it's very, very hard to be both in this type of thing, like teaching, trading, teaching self-control, especially as someone that he has lived under my roof. Like, he's watched me swing from both spectrums, unexpectedly and sometimes triggered by things. So I have to be careful, because he doesn't have any of those traits in him. Like, he's innocent. Like, he doesn't have any kind of issues that would cause an imbalance whatsoever. But I am. I have that. And when I tell him that he has to exercise control, like this morning we looked at it, he's like, when you say control, like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you can't lose your cool. Like, when you see Dad get angry about something, you don't even know why I got angry, and I start going off, and I have to walk away from everybody and excuse myself from everyone. You have to be able to know that you can't trade in a market like that. And with that mindset also, you can't be trading and risking money if you're going to be doing things that are going to be stressful. Like if you're doing something that's going to divide your attention and you're in a market that's really required to be babysat, you're looking at something that may draw your attention away from it or make you uncomfortable. Okay. If you have, like we have painters coming in to this house, and I'm having the whole house painted on the inside. And I had a company come out, and they're working up a proposal, which I'll look at. They've already emailed it. So when I'm done talking to you here, I'll look at it and see what they've, you know, worked up for me. I don't want to go with the first offer, but also want to make sure I get everything done in the time that I want to have everything done. So that way we can get things delivered to the house that's going to be ready, and other things we have, months down the road because it has to be built. So all those things, because I am a control freak, like I have to have my way. I'm not interested. And if I'm trading, even if I have a bias, even if I have an interest in the market doing something, what will happen is I will invariably ask either my wife, if I don't bring my phone, which is usually what I try to do. I don't want to carry my phone around a lot anyway. But if I don't have my phone, I'll ask my wife, hey, look, can you pull up ES on TradingView? Now she's got delay on her phone, so she's not logging into my stuff. But I kind of get it for where it's at because I can pull up the cash market, and it gives me a real close idea where it's at. I don't want to be doing that if I'm doing something that has my attention elsewhere. Like if I'm doing something with a business partner, or if I'm doing something where I'm purchasing something, or I'm doing some kind of transaction that's expensive, whatever, or it's going to be stressful to me. Like if I'm going to take a car to get service, what it's like, guys. You take your car there, you're expecting it to be a simple little thing. They say, oh well, we think it needs this and that, and then you got to argue with them why it doesn't need to be done. Okay, so that triggers me. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I don't want to have an opinion about a marketplace, because if I have an opinion, especially if I share it with you, okay, if I share it with you, then I'm going to be babysitting that idea. So because I was taken outside of my frame of focus that would be required in what I was endeavoring in today, that's why I said no bias. I have nothing. So what that did was it discharged me from having any interest in babysitting what the market's going to do, because you see how it is for me. If I say I'm done for the day, you can probably guarantee you're going to get at least a half a dozen more tweets. I'm always giving you a little bit more. But it gave me the ability to walk away and have no obligation from the attention side of the marketplace, where I don't have to look at it. It freed me up emotionally, psychologically. I have nothing vested in where the market's going to go. You're going to have to learn that skill set when you have to manage your life as well. Like if you're going to be doing something, like for instance, you may be getting sick, or your spouse or child that's sick. In those environments that you should not be trying to trade and make money, because what it's going to do is it's going to invite what? You need a distraction, the thing that makes you feel good. You need a feel good moment. So you're stressed out because you can't make your spouse feel better. Or if you're like me, like I'm a big baby when I'm sick. Like my wife, she could be coughing up a lung, okay? But if I get a head cold, the whole world knows that, oh, look at ICT, he's sick. Look at poor baby, poor baby. Now, everybody else in the house, when they get sick, it's like, whatever. They shake it off. But I guess it's a matter of me just wanting to feel loved. You care about me. I'm sick, right? You better care about me. I butter your bread. But when you have these instances in your life where you have personal tug of wars on your attention, your emotions, and you can't do anything to improve or change it, like a spouse or a child being sick, or yourself being sick, or there's a family loss, like someone passes away. Those type of things are going to be mentally, emotionally, draining on you. And they're going to be the perfect invitations for you to do what? distract yourself from that by doing what? Trading, push a button. Man, if I could just make $2,500 today, that would make it feel a whole lot better that Aunt Jackie passed away on a good day. It may not feel that great when you're sick and you're coughing up a lung, but I can tell you it feels better if you were making money. But the probabilities of that happening, are you going to be on your A game if you're sick, distracted, depressed, you know, trying to play nurse to your spouse or your child? And if you have a little one, like if I hear a baby cry now, oh, like I want to crawl out of my skin. And it's not that I don't love children. I do love kids. Obviously, I had lots of them, but like if we're out in public and I hear a screaming baby, like I'm like, or a little toddler screaming, oh man, like I got to get out of there. Like I can't tolerate. I have an intolerance to it now, and that probably sounds terrible coming from me. But I think if all of you were honest, you'd be, it's the same way. And I got kids, ICT. I know what you're talking about, but you can't feel that way about your own kids. But you also know you don't want to be in that situation. So the worst thing you do is have an opinion, an expectation on the marketplace. So you have to do what? Discharge yourself of any responsibility. Say, okay, that's it. I'm done. Turn the charts off. There it is. Walk away. So that's how I manage my personal life today. And also mentored my son, saying, okay, this is what I did, and this is what I'm doing. And daddy's turning off the computer. I'm not interested. And I was listening to Trades by Matt, while I was driving. And yes, I was at a red light when I was typing in the 2 times I, posted in his chat room. But it's noise. It's noise. It's talking about the marketplace. I like hearing it. Excuse me. And it's just, 90% of the time I had that young man playing in the background anyway. Not because I want to hear him win or lose. It's just, well, right now, if you listen, you hear anything? No. So there's 2 other YouTubers I listen to, but they're not on at a specific time, and there it is. But I got distracted there for a second. I had no idea where I was going with that. Give me a second here. I'll figure it out. Anyway, you have to be able to manage that in your own personal life too. Otherwise, you will do what I did when I was 20 years old. Go into that uncomfortable thing that you can't escape, and then push a button and wish you didn't do it later on. Or push a button, wish you didn't do it, and then try to correct it and make it worse and compound it. Now, I saw a few of the Twitter followers say they lost their account. I'm assuming that meant that you lost your funded account. I'm assuming that's what it was. I don't know what the reasons why that would have been the case, but you're going to have those things happen. Okay? If you don't wrestle with yourself and get control of yourself, manage yourself, be disciplined, you're going to be reckless. You're going to lose the account. You're going to blow your account. You're going to have strings of losses that are going to create drawdown that is very painful. And you have to give yourself freedom to say, okay, I'm not on my A game and I lost money. And I believe there was one person that said they lost 2%. And I actually replied to him. I said, keep it at 2%. Go home with that and just be able to come back. Because 2% is easy to come back from. I mean, it's easy, but that 2%, given in the right instance, in the right hands, it can become 30% negative, okay, 50% negative, or a blown account. So that type of thing is avoidable, but it doesn't feel like it's avoidable. It feels like that can't happen. I need to get it back right now. So all that comes from like episodes today, where in my personal life, I know I was going to be distracted. I would not be able to look at the charts. I would not be able to be on time when the chart would be doing whatever I'd be looking for, and to dismiss myself from any responsibility. Also to encourage it to you, because if I said what I felt was going to happen and I wasn't around to change gears if there was something there, I feel terrible because it's seeking short. I meant what I said. Just stay out of it. Now, some of you might look at that and say, oh man, I missed the move. ICT got me from wanting to do this, and I listened to him, and I didn't make any money. Well, guess what? That's still experience. Like you're showing if you thought and be honest now, if you felt that way or tweeted that, I looked at all my tweets today. So if you felt that, you are exhibiting the very characteristics that I'm teaching you not to have. That means you have your entire career balanced on one single section. You can say, "Oh no, it's not one. You have a good trade." No, I did not. I relieved myself of any responsibility, and I said, "You probably should turn your charts off." Now, if you know your model, and if you know your model and you know your experience, you're not going to listen to me right here. But if you're new, you start a relationship in 2022, you're new. You should not be holding yourself to those expectations about being able to be profitable. And because I said something about imagine not as a bullshit idea today. You're thinking, oh, it's high, it's going to sell short, or just didn't see that and they just wanted to be short anyway, and they didn't need stop loss. And they did things recklessly, and they did it with their fund account, or they did it with a live account, and then it ran up 55 handles against them before squeezing them out, or you know, that's what I try to avoid today. So I'm trying to be responsible with my opinions because I know you're very, very new. And I understand that there's an impulsive cycle that will react because you want to fault the guy that's talking to you now. If you don't make money, it's my fault. If you get afraid, it's my fault. But if you make money, thanks, ICT, I'm proud of myself. No. Be consistent. If you push the button, aim and glory is yours. The only thing I get the credit for is showing you the way. That's the only thing I get the credit for. You doing trades, push the button. That's why when I point, notice I didn't point today, but when I point to something, like the fair value gap, it was earlier in the week and went through it beautifully. That's me inviting you to engage with what you know. But if I'm not pointing and I say I'm getting away, I'm not looking at the charts, that means what? If you're new, you better not touch it. You better not touch it or you will regret it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get into something thinking you know better than you really do. And you're not going to see me tweeting about anything. And the market might rip one direction or the other. And you're just waiting. Okay, he's going to say something. And it's radio silence. And that's going to create what? Panic. What I try to avoid for you. There's a reason why I do everything, folks. It's not impulsive. It's not just, well, let me pull something out of thin air. It's experience having done this myself, having hurt myself as a younger man and learning from that, and also teaching people how to be profitable and knowing what works. And there's certain generic things that are just common sense. So if I say I'm not touching it, and you're new and you don't have experience and you don't even know what your model is, because there's other people out there that'll say, all right, ICT was, he's not trying to trade this or he's not doing this, and I took this trade today. And they prove it and they show it. That's amazing. That's awesome. I love that. That encourages me as a mentor. I don't look at that and say, oh, I didn't have a part in it. I didn't call that. Why didn't they do the thing I pointed at? This is what I mentioned before many times. That a lot of my students will close a trade where I'm entering, and I'll close a trade where they're entering. And we're both profitable because we're working inside that PDRA matrix. We're not falling victim like the retail crowd is. We're navigating the order flow. but you've not had it yet. And all I'm trying to do is give you the most likely chance. I can't guarantee it, folks. Nobody can guarantee profitability. I can't promise that you're going to learn this, do well. But I'm trying to do everything I can humanly possible to give you all the advantageous nudges and hints and guidance that I can to at least leave you in the game long enough for your own experience to take form. And once you have that experience, no one can take it from you. I can't strip it from you. Your spouse can't strip it from you. Nobody can take it from you. Now, you can ignore it, and the things you've learned, you can ignore that and say, well, last time I did this, I got hurt and I lost money, and then I tried to hurt away and I blew the account. It's going to be different this time. Well, as soon as you think that, that's when you turn the charts off and get out of there. Don't touch it. Because what you're doing is you're wrestling with yourself. And as soon as you feel that, and it's hard to identify it, especially early on, but as soon as you feel like your hunch is better than your model's rules, as soon as you feel that, I'm telling you, I don't care who says otherwise. I'm telling you, these same people that say these types of things, they are not consistently profitable. Because if they were, they would be shoving it down the road, not making stupid jokes on Twitter. You have to have a rigid list of rules, processes, protocols to follow. And as soon as you start making excuses or giving yourself freedom to break or deviate from those rules because you think it's going to be a different outcome this time, trust me, if you just started trading or learning from what I put out this year, you don't have that experience. And trust me when I tell you, it's not talking down to you. You don't have that experience. I wish I would have had someone 3 decades me that when I was 20, because I thought I was the exception to every rule. And I wasn't. I was not the exception. I lost in stunning fashion. It was glorious. It was absolutely fabulous how fast I could roast an account. But I learned from it. A lot of people don't learn from it. A lot of people say, okay, well, I'm done and dusted. I got to go. Let's find something else to do with my time in life. And I wasn't letting go of it. I try to be that encouragement for you not to want to quit, because if you blow in your account this week or last week or whatever it is that you've hurt yourself, just know that is what everybody that's been successful in trading, they have done that. There has never been a consistently profitable trader. And I'm telling you, there's going to be someone that's going to creep out there on YouTube and say, I have never blown an account before, and now I am profitable, and I'm this and I'm that. They're a liar. They're a liar. Everybody, every single person out there that's making money consistently, they have cremated more than one, maybe even a handful of accounts. And it doesn't make them a poor trader, because sometimes painful lessons have to be learned painfully. You have to do it in a way where it has to scar you, has to maim you. And I have tried to do my very best, at least, without being egotistical about it. I've tried my best to be a sober-minded, down-to-earth, realistic, never trying to, here's you're going to make $1 million. I never really teach from that style. And the end series is kind of like a little cherry on the top. That's my approach. I started on baby pips teaching, trying to get 25 pips a week. That's laughable now. It's laughable. Like, nobody would try to promote that kind of stuff today. It's all about 200R, 50R. And you can still do very well with 25 pips a week. But you have to know how to manage your money. So those are the types of things I'm trying to cultivate in my youngest son. I'm trying to go slow with him. I'm trying to be inspirational, but not talk about money. So, this morning I made the mistake of having the account show the money, where I wanted it to show like the points, the amount of points from entry to target or the stop loss. And it's because of creature habit. I'm not really interested. I usually don't even show that Like if I'm trading and I'm not trying to teach any of you, that doesn't even appear on my chart. Like I keep my chart completely naked. There's nothing on it. There's no lines. Anytime I do any kind of annotation, it's either because I'm planning to teach that or show that example to all of you, or I have my son next to me, one of them. And I'm saying this, now this is what you're looking for. You look at this right here. It is such a distraction to me because, and plus the time to type out everything I'm doing. Sometimes I'm worried about whether there's going to be a typo or not, or if I omit a word, or I'm like in mentorship before, I was doing recorded sessions and such, and I would refer to a PD array incorrectly because I'm looking at a 1 minute chart and I'm watching price fluctuate up and down, and I'm managing an idea, I'm managing a position, and it's on a 1 minute chart. So I have to keep my focus on what it's doing, maintain that thought process while I'm trying to think about how I can articulate in a way where it's useful to you as a student to be able to pull the maximum information out of that moment right then and there. And then be prepared to do it again when something else is forming. Like it's a lot. That's why I say all the time, if people watch that kind of stuff and say, oh, anybody can do that. Well, only my students are doing it. Only my students do that. And I'm so proud of you that do that. You record your executions. You're not using market replay. You're literally pressing a button and you're managing the idea throughout the trading process. You will get amazing precision by doing that. Don't look at it as this, you're proving to me and in the community that you're doing well. You're actually creating such a level of precision and anticipatory price skills that is unmatched. You can't get that anywhere. You can't get it from a book. You can't get it from a course. I can't give it to you. You hone that with your own activity. That's how it's obtained. There's no free lunch for that. You do that kind of stuff, you're going to get really really impressive results and precision. That's just it's amazing. It will amaze you and it'll amaze anyone you share it with. But that was the technical side of stuff today in this discussion. Um, if you're not into tinfoil hat kind of stuff or world events and you know now I don't want to say political because I'm not political, but just think of it kind of like that. If you're not worried about global war and upheaval and civil unrest, then it's time for you to turn this one off. But anyway, so the last couple of days I have been monitoring some things. I have a lot of folks are all around the world, and I'm so blessed to have such a network of people like net all around the entire globe. A lot of the things I talked about in 2016, I'm going to briefly list this here because I've heard it. I've said it many times every time I talk about these topics. Um, before I even did mentorship in 2016, in the spring of 2016, I said that he would put Trump in office. And no, I did not vote for him. I'm not a registered voter, and I'm not voting in this one either. Okay, so I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for because they're both wrong. Okay, so that way we know I'm completely objective. I'm outside of the Hegelian dialectic. I'm worrying about right or left. I'm just talking outside, looking at it. Okay, and I just want you to think, not take my view of it and adopt it. That's the worst thing you could ever do. Don't ever do that. Not with me, but with anyone. Reason it out yourself. Okay. Um, Consider the ramifications and consequences of your subscribing to a view that I'm suggesting here. Okay. So it's not important for you to subscribe to these same ideas that I'm showing that I have and think that that finds good grace in my eyes as a student. That is absolutely, this has nothing to do with trading in that light. Okay. If you are absolutely diametrically opposed to everything I'm going to say here, that's fine. I'm not opening this up for a debate because none of you are going to convince me otherwise because I'm ahead of the curve. I'm not trying to convince any of you to think this way. Okay. But I'm just posing it because it's eating at me. Like I got to get it off my chest. So I'll bet because it's just sticking my craw right now. But in 2016, in the spring, I was on Twitter and I was talking about how Trump would be elected and that they would use him to stimulate the economic, you know, front, make it better. And he ran it like a business, which is what we are in America. Our country is a corporation. Like it or not, that's just the way it is. So anyone that's going to run it like a corporation or intent of running it as a profitable corporation, they're going to get the best results. And there's a lot of things I don't like about Trump. Like I don't like him as a person. I don't like him. There you go. I just don't like him. Now, that's not meant to be hateful, and I know some of you probably love him. Okay, and maybe you go to his rallies and you support him, and maybe you have things on your lawn saying, "Make America great" and all that stuff. God bless you for that idea about making America great. That's great. Okay, but I don't think it's going to be great anymore. And in 2016, I said that they would use him as a fall guy. Now, some of you that were here maybe recall all that and probably thought that, oh, he's a Trumper. No, I said it back then. I'm not a Trumper. I wasn't voting for anyone. But I said that they would use him as a fall guy. So what does that mean? Well, think about a play. Okay, think about a movie script. Okay, or wrestling. You have to have a good guy and you have to have a bad guy. Now, prior to Trump's election, the economy was kind of like bleh. It was flat. Obama was a miserable failure, never did anything right. Just, you know, he's rich now, but he didn't do anything at all as our president. Okay. The economy was nothing, it was lackluster. And I know everybody that might support that of the government, you're going to come and say, but he did this. Please don't even do that. Don't even send, because I'm not even going to look at it. In fact, I'll just mute you because all you're doing is you're giving talking points for your side when your side has misinformation, just like the Republicans do. They both are misguided, and you're all running around with information that was shoveled into your head, and you've never done the research on your own. So I'm just reminding you that I'm trying to debate anybody. All this is to inspire you to think going forward. I'm not trying to change your political stance. I'm not trying to persuade you not to vote either. Go out and vote. I just don't subscribe to it. So I said that he would be used as a fall guy. And that meant that he was going to do what? Which is what I said. He would supercharge the economy by running it like a business. Now, what does that do? It brings this sense of patriotic, America first. We're the leaders. Everybody's going to want to be like us. We're going to have the strongest economy. We're going to do this and that. And it's going to get everybody passionate about being what? Commercially driven spenders. And it happened. The economy was great. The market was great. Gas was cheap. Groceries were cheap. Everything was affordable, except for health insurance. Funny how that Affordable Act wasn't ever really affordable, but that's another discussion. And all of a sudden, what happens? They create the villain, that plot twist. Okay, Russia. Oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. He's going to put us in war. He's going to do that. Now, I don't know where all you were, but when I was listening to the radio, because I don't watch TV and news and stuff like that, but I would listen to the radio, and they would play these little sound bites saying that we're going to be in war with Russia, and we're going to be at war with this one and that one if Trump doesn't do that. Now, the Democrats have control of everything. And how they got that, that's another discussion because I don't think it was on the level. Okay. There's no way anybody's going to convince me that Joe Biden got 80 million votes. No way. Absolutely not. We'll touch on that in a minute. If we have this booming economy, everybody's passionate, everybody's energized, they created this what? Cult of personality. They created this fever, this Hulk Hogan of the politics. And love him or hate him, and I'm not a fan of him, he was very successful in whipping up a crowd, getting people passionate about our country, and getting our Republicans energized to get out there and motivate other Republicans. And it became a cult. Like it or not, it's what it is. That's why we get accused of that also. And there are many times that my students act like, and sometimes it's funny, I'll be honest with you. You know, I don't take it serious, but sometimes when you guys get really nuts and you want to go after other people and bash them over the head, yeah, but ICT, we're not going down that path. They created that storm and that clash of personalities. If you don't like Trump, well, you don't love America. Now, I love America. I don't like Trump. And I can't stand the viewpoints of Democrats. My uncle, who first introduced me to trading, has always been a Democrat. And he's not wanting to be a Democrat anymore. He's like, I don't even recognize the party anymore. So he was a product of his mother because his mother was a Democrat and everything she believed in, he believed in. So that's really not saying much now. But you have this fall guy scenario. Well, to fall means you have to take it up first. You got to come from a place of prominence, high and lofty place. And Trump grew in popularity, meteoric rise in popularity. And then it's all his fault that we are in the situation we're in now. None of this is that guy's fault. But his role was necessary because they're all in this theater, this act, this play. And that's the hard thing for people, especially hardline Democrats and many Republicans, but mostly Democrats. They can't see it for what it really is. It's all theater. It's all pretend. They're all working together. No, they can't be. They can't be. They are. They absolutely are. And they only seem strong-handed on their political supporters' views when it's election time. But as soon as they get reelected, they go back in there and start glad-handing, and nothing gets done because they're all on the payroll. So we had Trump play his role as the good guy. He's the face. And then they came in and he tore them down. And you're all expecting some rocky comeback scenario. It ain't happening. It's not happening, folks. That's not going to happen. There is no Republican coming to save the day. And there is no Democrat that's going to fix it either. So right away, you already understand this is not one of those feel-good discussions. So why am I even talking about it? Well, you're in a business or trying to learn this money. And one of the rules of making money is knowing how to preserve it. In trading, the first rule of being profitable is keep the money you got. And if you're going to lose a little bit and then stop. Wait for your opportunity to present itself. Maybe in the same day, maybe the next week, but you have to know what that is for you. And a lot of people are walking around and they're just looking at their cell phones like zombies, walking around, looking in their little 4 to 6 inch little universe, walking in front of cars and intersections like I've seen people do. Literally walk into my car, walk into my wife's car, not paying attention because they're looking at their phone. Now I'm holding this phone because I got to do this Twitter space with you. I don't have to do the Twitter space, but I'm choosing to do it. I wish there's a way for me to do this at my desk. Maybe there is. If there is, then tell me that. You can tweet to me, not to this uh, space, but just do a simple tweet. The only way it is, then it is what it is. But we are obviously at the precipice of something none of us really know. And I talked about this in 2016. I said that we're going to see this collapse, and it'll be ushered in as like a Venezuela 2.0. And I had so many people that were like, man, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And at the time, it I was getting it from. Like nobody else out there was talking about this kind of stuff. And I didn't really watch, crackpots and people that would even be opposed to the main line that was going on. So when I think about all the things I've said in the past about these events and how it came to pass, like it's weird for me to think about it like that. And then in 2019, July of 2019, I had this unction, like this really heaviness on me. And I shared it, much like I do most of everything else. I'll let you know if it's like a live space like this. You're getting it right out of my mind. There's no filter. And you're probably saying, where's the F-bombs? You ain't said the F word one time. I don't feel that that's necessary because I want you to pay attention. And I'm trying very hard to stay focused and balanced. Because if I start going off the rails, you're not going to listen to me like I want you to listen to me. Because this really is something you need to be aware of. Because if you are nervous or anxious about what's going on, there's a real reason for you to feel that. And you have to do things that hopefully will prepare you for it. And we'll talk about that. But in July 2019, I said something really wicked's coming. And of course, they all were like, oh, Chicken Little, Chicken Little. What's it going to be? And I couldn't really put my finger on exactly what it was because, again, I didn't understand why I was feeling the need to say it. And I just had this, I don't know, I don't want to say feeling. I don't want to say like a hunch or nothing like that. It was definitely consuming everything. Like everything was like, my attention was always going to that. And I couldn't figure out what it was. In October, I tweeted again. I said, you ever get the flashbacks of what it was like in 2001? Now, some of you young people are going to know this because you're not old enough. But when we had the September 11th thing take place, when the towers collapsed, the demolition, that event, that was the real kickstart to everything that you're seeing right now. All of that stuff was the beginning of what we're all experiencing right now. Now, that happened in New York and in Philadelphia and DC. To every country now. Every country is being affected by the same thing that was at work that day. You don't have to idea of September 11th engineer, but I believe it is. And a lot of people have $1 trillion on this thing. And television the day before saying, wow, we can't find $1 trillion. Well, we got a solution for that. To where all the transactions would, where that $2 trillion would go. 2 towers fall. Then building number 10 falls. It wasn't hit. And then building number 7 was said, oh, BBC was on the news saying, yeah, building 7 has collapsed. And the BBC anchorly, the reporter was standing right in front of building number 7. And about a half an hour later, then it falls. They messed up a lot. Now, that's a big endeavor. And don't take my word for what I just said. Do some research, because you can still find that stuff. But they started doing something then. What was it? Control. You got to break the system to rebuild it. What system? Everything. When you get up to go to work, you're going there to do what? To make your money so you can make what? Your ends meet. That money is about to change in a way that none of us are prepared for. I see all you folks out there that champion the cryptocurrency stuff. Crypto, crypto, crypto. I'm going to be honest with you. Back in 2012, where everybody was pushing on me, and like I said, podcast. I mean, we didn't refer to it as a podcast back then, but he was like, hey, why don't you come on and talk to us as a guest? And they were trying to convince me to invest in Bitcoin. I said, I'm not interested. The truth is, I didn't want to be on any blockchain stuff because we're all going to be thrown on it. And it's going to control every aspect of what we do in our life. Every transaction is going to be recorded, and I wanted to avoid it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and it might not be one of those topics you want to hear about. But it's not religion, because I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I don't go to, your typical church where you make a pastor rich, because the Bible doesn't teach that. But they run these churches like businesses, and if it offends you in the audience, then that's something you're going to have to sort out. But that's the truth. And my greatest growth as a believer in Christ was when I absolutely left organized religion. So I have a relationship with Christ, and I felt in my spirit not to touch that stuff. And because back in 2012, I didn't want to touch on any of those topics because, nobody wants to hear it. And I was talking to a young group of guys. It just never mentioned it. It wasn't because I was ashamed. I just didn't feel that it was going to be needed to be explained. But that's the reason why I will not trade crypto. I'm not interested in it. Okay. I'm not interested in it because I believe that the very mark that everybody will be placed under to be able to buy or sell will be driven by that very system. So I don't want to be in it. I don't want to profit from it. I don't want to be a partaker in it all. And it might be too tinfoil hat for some of you. And that's fine. Again, just a reminder, I'm just talking and thinking out loud tonight. This is not meant to indoctrinate any of you. I'm not trying to win you over to Jesus, because guess what? Jesus has to draw you first. I can't make you believe in what I believe in, and I'm not saying you should because I'm saying it. He'll call you if he wants you. But crypto and the whole blockchain thing, that was all whipped up into a frame. So that way everybody would feel comfortable going on it. Now, these central bank digital currencies, some of you are like, yes, it's going to be great. Some of you are like, oh, we already got digital currency. Our money's already digitized. It's not really. You go on your bank account, yeah, you'll see digits there. But those digits, you can go out there and you can buy a car. You can go out to the gun store and buy yourself an AR-15. You might not be a fan of firearms, but right now, we go out and buy firearms. We can go out on a credit card and buy firearms. Now, credit cards are going to report that as a firearm purchase or ammunition. but you can still go and buy it with cash. So your currency right now is not programmable. It's, for the most part, accessible. But once we go on this central bank digital currency, your currencies now, what does that mean? Okay, well, say, like right now, this conversation I'm having, this conversation is probably going to be something that causes me an issue later on. And this is where those F words would usually come out. I don't really give a flying hoot. So, programmable currency, meaning that they care ability to spend money. That's what it's designed to do. That's what's coming. That's what it is all about. Because if you can control a population's money and their food, you control them. Last 24, 25 years, schools have been indoctrinating people, and my own daughter is a victim of it. She thinks like a socialist. She thinks like one. And it's very hard to deal with her in conversations because she sees things as a socialist because in college and in her last 2 years in high school, socialists taught her and they educated her. Now, they didn't say this is socialism. They framed it in this is what's fair, this is what's better. I'm going to be real honest with you, and this is probably going to tick a lot of you off that think this way, but just because I make a lot of money or my students make a lot of money or you make a lot of money doesn't entitle someone else to get your money because they didn't work their rear end off to get it either. I don't owe any of you anything. You weren't there when I was going through the hard times to get this. All the times I blew accounts, all the times that I had losing trades, every relationship that I lost as a result of pouring everything into this. If I'm profitable and you're profitable, that doesn't mean everybody else in your neighborhood should be, getting something for free from you, or that you should be paying more taxes because it's not fair for them. Because guess what? This information is now public knowledge. Laziness does not protect entitlement. And that's why I'm offended by it. I've always been offended by it, but I hate it today. Like it's prevalent in every country. Every country, these people walk around thinking you owe me something, and if you're successful, you really owe me more. No, we don't. There's no reason why you can't be successful too. There's people in Africa that are being very profitable now. I think everybody would collectively agree that impoverished nations in Africa, that is a box checked off, that's a society that would be viewed as, well, they're underprivileged. But yet they still can do it. What's different? Some of them over there aren't lazy. Laziness is what's being trained and taught and it's expected to be given to you because that will do what? Make it such an easy slide right on into universal basic income. They're destroying the middle class. You don't see this, but I'm going to tell you what's happening right now. This whole green energy thing, okay? They're telling farmers, you got too much nitrogen in your soil. Your cows are farting. We can't have that. You got to kill your cows. There's too much methane. First of all, you need nitrogen. When you have lightning strikes, the great and wonderful Lord Almighty, in his infinite wisdom, instituted this whole planet with systems running itself. And every time there's a lightning strike, that's where we get the nitrogen in our soil. Nitrogen comes down through lightning strikes into the soil. and it charges the soil with nitrogen, and it makes it what? More fertile for things to grow in it. Over there in Europe, they're saying you got too much nitrogen in your soil. You can't plant, you can't do this, you can't do that. What? Where's the science behind that? If a cow dies, the cow's body releases methane naturally. That's a naturally occurring thing. But your governments are saying to you that this is a problem. We can't let you grow livestock and garden. You can't create crops. And in America, they're saying you can't have enough water to do this because we're running low on water. Well, you can't grow crops then. Green fuels, you can use fossil fuels. Poland was told, hey, you got to close to your coal mines. And now you're all screaming, we're not going to be able to heat our homes. But you're giving money away to Ukraine. Where's the science in that? Biden gets in office, shuts down the pipeline. Energy prices go up. Oh, midterms are coming up. Let's start pumping out and using our reserves to make prices a little bit more palatable at the pump. So that we can slide into the midterms and say, we lowered energy prices. But you don't realize that we got about 20 some days left of diesel fuel. Did you get groceries anytime in the last 30 days? Did you go to the store and get milk, bread, eggs? Did you go and do that in the last 30 days? Chances are you probably did. How do you think that stuff got to the store? In the United States, most of it's by tractor trailer, semis, and they mostly run on diesel. Now, some of them run on natural gas, but mostly diesel. What do you think's going to happen if something doesn't significantly change in, say, oh, I don't know, 23 to 25 days? Trucks aren't moving. And if trucks aren't moving, food ain't being delivered. And if it's not in the stores, you're going hungry. All these green deals are the mask for global famine that they are engineering. I've been saying it, and people just don't want to listen. It's too science fiction. It's too crackpot. I'm the same guy that's been talking to you about the markets and calling the markets and explaining how they all work. I'm being honest with you. If you don't see it, that's shocking. Private business was shut during all this COVID crap, but big corporations were allowed to stay open. Plexiglass was put up between you and the cashier at the grocery store, but they pawed over everything as they put it in your bag. That's science. A girlfriend of mine was growing up. Very, very healthy girl. She was an aerobic aficionado. Like she was fit, like fit. Worked at Johns Hopkins, and they told her, you got to get the vaccination or you can't be here. No problem. I believe in it. So she goes and gets the shot. 4 days later, she's dead. Her brain swelled up, her heart swelled up, dead. I had people all around the world reporting to me. Some of them are doctors in my mentorship. They did not like me talking like this. I would love to hear those doctors now today. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you were only going by the research that was being provided to you at the time. But the deaths of 24-year-olds to 40-year-olds are off the charts right now. Sudden death, all heart. Why? Why is it that morticians are finding big clumps of things that wouldn't be naturally in human bodies clotting up the arteries and blood vessels and hearts of young people? Athletes are dying. These are our champions. These are our titans. These people are fit. Soccer players running around on the field collapsing. Basketball players stand there 1 minute, fall on their face. And they're putting out PSA announcements. Doing average things that everybody looks at as normal stuff can cause heart disease and heart attacks now. Our buying agent that was with us doing this purchase with the home I just purchased, she was telling us the day that we settled, she goes, one of my best friends I grew up with, her best friend I'm talking about, she was always going back and forth saying that, this lady that was our real estate agent should get the shot. And she's like, I'm not getting that shot. Well, the other lady let her senior daughter get the shot. Now she has POTS, which is a heart disease, and she's only 16 years old. Never had a problem ever. No history of it in their family. In a week, now she's got heart issues. Now, I say all this stuff with a great deal of heaviness because my daughter took 2 doses of that Pfizer crap. And I know people that died from Pfizer's crap. There's a lot of things that are going to happen that are going to be, well, let's be honest, it's going to be scary. And none of us can do anything about it. The only thing you can do is occupy yourself. Otherwise, because you'll just sit there and you'll be a mess. So, listening to my lectures, and some of you are like, well, what's the point of learning how to do this? Well, I believe there's going to be a market. What kind of market? I don't know. It might evolve into something that we don't even recognize anymore. But I do believe that Forex is going to die. Forex is not going to be what you are used to seeing. And the first step to doing that destruction of global currencies and unification of one currency is they go to a digital currency, because there's going to be what? There's going to be resistance to that. So how do you quell individually as countries? How do you quell that resistance? How do you stave it off and say, you're going to listen and keep yourself calm? Turn your money off. Those truckers that were up in Canada, Trudeau, who loves the way China runs their country. He literally froze their bank account. Oh, but Michael, they were doing this and that. All that was to warm you up to the idea, just like the Patriot Act was when the Bush administration introduced that. These murderous terrorists need to have the Patriot Act placed on them. And they won't have a right to an attorney, just label you a terrorist, and then you're gone. And I was like, yeah, that's how it should be. Because I was scared to death when those planes hit those buildings. That was when I had the highest form of anxiety I've ever had. September 2001, for like 2 years, I had so much generalized anxiety. Like I was afraid of everything. When they started doing that, what was that stuff they were mailing around? I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, it's like a poison. I don't remember what it was. It'll come to me later on. But it's like a white powder stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I told my wife, I said, don't bring any of the mail in the house. Leave the mail out there. Well, I mean, come on, that's not practical. But I would literally go out there and I would get these face masks on and these rubber gloves, and I'd literally open up a mail outside and then throw all the envelopes in the trash can. And I was thinking to myself, like, this is madness. Like I can't like this. But that's exactly what they wanted. Anthrax, that's what it was. Anthrax. Anthrax was being sent around in envelopes, and they wanted people to be afraid of the mail. They created all these boogeymen, these problems, these scary things. And COVID, they created that. But it's funny how all this stuff, you know, all the businesses that were shut down, people lost their jobs. And I understand in New York, a judge just came out and said everybody's allowed to go back to their job. They got to be rehired. Okay, sounds great, but there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be hired back. So this economic collapse that we're watching, that was created and engineered, nobody's really remembering how it all really took place. See, in magic, there's a principle called time misdirection. If I say something to you in banter and patter of a trick, and I'm performing it, and I'm showing you something, I'm telling you something that may have something to do with the effect. But I'm also showing my hands a certain way and gesturing a certain way. So your attention and your focus is where I don't want it to be, where I'm doing the trick or the sleight of hand. I want it to be at the neutral hand, where it looks dirty, like I'm doing something, but really it's clean. Those are terms in magic. When I'm doing a sleight of hand, that's that's dirty hand, but I present it as clean. And I build this rapport with the audience members, and then all of a sudden, the sleight of hand's done. Then I reveal the effect to you at my leisure. And then the audience, oh, wow, how'd you do that? That illusion of choice presentation I have on my SoundCloud, if you listen to it more than one time, you'll hear priming. It's only leading you to two choices. And the math presents the choice that I already know what you're going to, and I'm presenting the answer in both senses of the outcome. But because you lose track of all the banter, you don't think, oh, wow, yeah, that would have led me right to that very choice. But because of that time misdirection, you don't see that you're being duped. The government's been doing that with us all around the world. Every government's doing it. See, they have literally stolen wealth and crashed the economy, but it's only moving slow motion. You don't see it. But think about it, folks. 2 years. We're coming up on 2 years. Doesn't feel like 2 years, does it? Since all this COVID stuff. Because they have mentally worn you out. keeping you distracted with this. Oh, the Trump's going to be this, and we're going to put this person in jail, and we're going to do this, and this person's going to fix all the problems. Biden, in that comedy they have as a government, these people are there to make you sick. They're there for you to hate them. They are not there to be effective. They are there to mock you, to make you feel, ugh, what's the use? When you see it for what it really is, it's shocking. These people are there to let you feel no sense of hope. They dash your hope, despair. You will gladly take the solution they're going to bring. And you don't realize that you're walking in to slavery. And you're going to greet it with open arms. And you don't even recognize it. If they institute these central bank digital currencies and they do away with cash, our lives will never, ever be the same. They're not. And it's not going to be an improvement. The only improvement it's going to be is their ability to control us. Now, don't think for a moment that I have an answer to this, because I don't. I personally believe it's biblical. I believe that we are looking at that moment that transitions into the worst 7 years of human history. That's where. Does it start right now? Is it about to start? I don't know, but we're right there. When has there ever been a time like this? Think about it. When has Iran and Russia ever been an ally? Historically, never. But Persia and Magog and Gog, guess what? They're buddies right now. Euphrates River, keep your eye on that. It seems like it's a little low, just like our Mississippi River is. That's interesting, isn't it? What's so big a deal about that? Well, in the United States, that Mississippi River is a major artery for barges and deliveries of goods. And barges and vessels are getting stuck there because they can't traverse down the Mississippi River. We're about to run out of diesel fuel. The railroad union's about to go on strike. We got midterms coming up. And regardless of the outcome, I don't trust it. I don't have any faith in it. Zero. Now, am I saying this is a call to arms? Let's have a 1776 moment? No, that's stupid. But that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. They want people so ticked off that they lose their mind and they go out there and they start trying to take the law in their own hands. And then what's going to happen? Martial law. The last little shred of the Constitution that we're all enjoying right now. You don't have any rights then. That's what they want. They're poking and prodding because they want you to go off. Because if they get people in the streets acting a fool, going at each other's throats, that's the problem that they're going to present and orchestrate and engineer. And then they're going to bring the solution. And that's going to be, well, Not pleasant. Anytime our liberties and freedoms have been taken away from us, they've never been given back. When I came out on the scene in 2010, I thought I had a little bit more time than where we're at. But things started really escalating, getting faster and faster and faster. And I kind of feel that now. It's like the feeling I had in 2019 when I was telling you on Twitter and that account that I had then. It's like 50 times that. Like, let me make sure I'm not huddled up in my house, afraid to leave the house and anxious. I'm not anxious at all. I'm greatly concerned for people in my family that don't see this, despite me sitting down with them and you know, saying, "Look at this. Do you not see this?" No, I don't see that at all. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And some of you know it's right now listening. You're probably thinking, none of this is convincing me of anything. And now I'm beginning to wonder, are you sane? That's fine. And that's a fair. If I want to have it, I'm not trying to be disposing it as a topic for you to take a look at. Just take a look at it and see if you can see these things leading us down famine. That means control of food, and everything that you eat right now is being affected by everything I'm talking about. Your ability to get that food and time to be able to get it is dwindling quickly. You need to get yourself canned vegetables, meats, tuna, chicken, beef, anything that's canned. You need to be getting that. And don't have any reason to be feeling upset about going in there and buying 10 or 15 cans at a time. If you can afford it, buy it. It's on the shelf to be bought. If you have the money and the means to buy it, buy it. Because when it comes time to feed your little ones and yourself, believe me, nobody else is going to be thinking about you when they got to go and get it for their family. And I'm not teaching selfishness, but you right now, the Bible says, if you don't take care of your family, you're worse than an unbeliever. And I look at you all as my family. And it would be on my hands if I say nothing about this when I feel it. Like I'm feeling pressed to tell you these things. And I don't care what any of your opinion about me as a person is after I've told you this. If you want to look at me as a crackpot, if you want to look at me as whatever, bottom line is I don't care. I have been ahead of the curve, and I don't understand how it happened. But every time I feel like I got to talk about it, I do. But I don't talk about it a lot. But this conversation, I really, really want you, because there's some of you that are my students, and you just simply don't want to listen to these type of things, and you think it's not going to happen. But look over there in Europe. Keep your eye on the UK, because I'm telling you, the UK is going to be treated very, very special over the next coming months. You are going to feel it in the UK, but as a whole, is going to get ran through the ringer. And I personally believe that you're going to see, well, they've been talking about a dirty bomb, but I have said for years that they're going to use a weapon in the United States here. And once that happens, martial law, boom. And they're never going to turn it off. Hey, prepare for that. I don't know. I just, hope it ain't near me. But if it is, instant death, instant glory. I'm not worried about it. But while I'm here, if I can, I want to try to encourage everyone to make preparations as best as you can. Now, what's the point in all this? Is this to scare you? No. Mm-mm. I'm not trying to scare you at all. Remember that discussion at the beginning. relieve myself of any responsibility in place because I would be stressed dealing with who I was dealing with about spending money and getting quotes and bids to paint my home, and knowing that they're all going to sugar and butter me all up, saying, well, we'll take care of you doing this and doing this, and we're going to charge you this. You know, I'm a businessman. I look for the best deal, but I also want it done correctly. And I'm not going to be able to focus on the marketplace if my mind is divided in a stressful environment. So place yourself in a situation where you're trying to do what I'm training you to do, trade these markets. And there may be a period, and I'm thinking quite certain that there's going to be a period where we will not be able to trade. How long? I don't know. Might be a week, could be longer, might be just a day. But something's going to happen shortly. Just look at the whole world is on edge. We're talking about nuclear bombs, okay? Nuclear devices. And I said this, they need something scarier than COVID now. They need something scary. And I'm going to tell you something. Growing up as a child in the 70s and the 80s, we had to do the drills in school where they would send off that air raid siren. It was always at 1 o'clock. You didn't know what day of the week it was going to happen. Okay, but it happened. And then all of a sudden that meant, okay, look at the teacher. They said, okay, climb under your desk, put your hands on your head. What was that going to do for us? I was one of the kids that looked around everybody. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, what is this going to do for us? We're dead. And there was a movie called Damnation Alley. Had George Papard in it, and guy was on the A-Team TV show from the 80s. When I watched that, that scared the living hell out of me. I was like, that's what nuclear bombs are going to do? Turn scorpions into dinosaur level, things, and the sky would be all radioactive and just nothing, a barren wasteland. So they were feeding us this apocalyptic view of the world as a result of nuclear bombs. So we were being conditioned, trained to be fearful of that. And it worked for me as a kid. Then I grew up, I'm like, you know what? I ain't worried about all this. I'm not worried about any of it. Well, now, when we had the September 11th thing happen, they were teaching us to be fearful of terrorists. If you see a box on the street, it's probably a bomb. Report it. If you see your fellow citizen walking around and they look suspicious, report them because they're probably going to be taking down somebody else's building next. That was boogeyman, scaring people and dividing people and putting them against each other. And now what they did with COVID, you're unvaccinated. You're causing all this to happen. No, we're not. I'm not vaccinated, and I'm never getting vaccinated. Ever. Nothing. Because they're going to slip that Mickey in everything they can now. They divide us. The white and the black. Rodney King. I grew up and went through that whole show too. They've always used that one. Why? Because black folks are animated when they're pissed off. When they know they're right and they got a reason, they will mount up and posse up everywhere. And they will bring a ruckus. That's why they use that all the time. Even now, it's not that strong. So they created what? The unvaccinated and the vaccinated, the clean and the unclean. And now you have that division. We're being divided against one another all the time. Because if we're constantly being divided, we cannot see our own governments doing these very things to us. And we won't remember it when it comes to voting time. And where do these people come from? You ever think about that? Like in your country, where you're at, how did you end up with just those candidates? Surely we could have had somebody better than what we just had in our own election. Come on. Really? The whole process. Now, you might be thinking, no, come on, ICT. It ain't rigged. I've already told you the markets are rigged. And you don't think these political get rich in 2 and 4 year terms aren't rigged? Please don't be so naive. That's what they hope you are. They don't want independent thinkers. They don't want people to think outside the box that they create and you hang on your wall. And I got 9 of them. They're called televisions. They tell a vision. The vision is what they want you to believe and see. Program with the things you watch. Now, I have a lot of TVs, but I don't watch TV. I watch old movies, old shows that may not be interesting to you, but I go down memory lane with it. So how does it affect you as a trader? A lot. But some of you young folks don't want to see it that way. Oh, this doesn't affect me. It will. Place yourself in that situation where you might have money, you might have that digital currency, but you've done something online. You said something, like maybe some of the things I've said in this Twitter space. And like in China, they have a social credit score. And if you don't do what they want you to do, and if you act out of line, well, certain permissions are not granted to you. Your buying ability has been altered, limited. You can't do this, you can't go there. You can't pay for this, and you can't buy or acquire, procure said items. What are those items? I don't know. But now you're going to have a currency that is, well, has parental locks on it. Now, you younger folks that are in their 20s, think about what's like when you were growing up in your parents' house and you couldn't wait to turn 18, like you were going to move out. I'm having that right now with my son Cameron. I gave him access to a car, and now he's like, no, I can't wait to turn 18 and I'm going to go out and do my own thing. Okay, that's going to be interesting to see because you don't have a trade. You're only doing a menial job right now with no real skills. So it's the typical 18-year-old boy mentality. I'm going to get out of this house and I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to be able to live where I want to go. Yeah, okay, great. I want to see you do it. But you know what it's like. You don't like to have the parental rules. He has a curfew. He can't drive certain places, and he's not allowed to have anybody in his car. Okay, that's reasonable, right? But he doesn't think that's reasonable. So he wants to act out. Now imagine you're going to be in a situation where you know you have money in the bank, but you've done something online, and now your social credit score has been affected, and you're being told you can't do what you want to do with your money. Sounds science fiction, doesn't it? And yet it's not. That's why central bank digital currency is being implemented everywhere. So you're going to be stressed. Like it or not, prepared or not, you're going to be challenged. You're going to be stressed. You're going to have these things plaguing you and beating up on your emotions and your psychology about what you perceive all around you. And you're listening to me because you're a trader or a trader in development. How's that going to impact your ability to do analysis? Yeah, exactly. It's going to be harder. It might be also. So you have to prepare yourself now. It's the only reason why I'm telling you to do it now. I don't have all the answers, folks. I don't. I wish I did. I don't know where to put money that would be outside of this. And they're going to take away cash. They're taking that resource, that ability to trade for goods and services, and they're making it illegal. Oh, they're not. They are going to do that very thing. There's a lot of businesses already that are saying no cash. Starbucks, which I can't stand that company. It's coming, whether you like it or not, whether you're ready for it, it's coming. And none of us can stop it. And Trump is all part of it. Putin is all part of it. Every one of these people are all playing their role. And you're given the illusion that there's a chance that things are going to get turned around. If we just get this person elected, it's never happening, folks. Wake up and realize what's really going on. You are just being prodded down the road until they get everything in place. Don't worry. By spring, it will be. Our world's going to be drastically different and progressively worse every month after. So what's the point, ICT? Then, why bother? Well, if you still can trade and you keep your nose above the water and you don't get out here and try to stir up things, be a gray man. That's why I'm telling you, I'm going back to being private. I only have a couple more weeks here on Twitter. I'm not deleting the channel or the account. I'm just not going to be active. I'm a very divisive person. And the things I talk about, I'm quite certain are going to be all those checkboxes, okay? That I don't want that kind of drama. I know what's coming. I know what's coming, and I have a following. It's not huge, but I have a following. So that means I have an influence, and they will make an example of influencers. Look around, and you'll know what I mean. So I'm to avoid all that going forward. So I'm talking to you in just a fireside chat amongst friends. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what you think about it. Right now may not be how you're going to feel about it once it hits. And it's going to hit. And a lot of you are going to be very shocked and quite honestly scared. I trust the Lord, okay? I believe God has always had my back. But if I'm to be here through all that, number one, that's something I wasn't expecting. Two, I have a lot of friends and family members that are not believers in the way that I believe. They don't see what's going on either. They're completely closed-minded. But yet I love them. They're my family and my friends. And simply because they don't agree with the things that I believe as a faith or the way I interpret the world, I don't shun them. I've loved them from a distance, but my heart is heavy for them because I know they're going to need help. And just because I have a lot of money, there may be things in the way that prevent me from to do things for them. What does that mean? Well, a central bank digital currency may make it only accessible for you yourself. When we had the real ID become implemented in the United States, why would they need that? Why do they need that? I mean, the driver's license is good enough, right? Down in Jamaica, they're discovering the wonderful benefits of having a birth certificate now. They never had that before. Shout out to my Jamaican friends. Give me a heads up in the Twitter if that's been going on down there, because that's something that you all just had your first exposure to. And that's how they own you. Because once they have papers on you, you're a cog in the machine. See, folks, we are on a spinning rock, hurtling through space, and every one of us has an inmate number on our hand. We're all slaves. Some of us have a little bit more money and more status, but we're all slaves. And any time our governments can say, You have no rights. You have no status. You have no clout. You have no wealth. You have no identity. You are gone. That's power. And that's what they're ushering in. If we had a constitution in the truest form that it was created in, we would not have 100-mile no constitution zones in the United States. But that's exactly what we have now. Homeland Security can go in and bust through your door. No warrants needed. If you're in a 100-mile radius from the edge of our beaches and shores. Don't take my word for it. It's reality. And the Supreme Court backed it up. Something's severely wrong here. And the way I see it, they're conditioning ourselves, or not, they are conditioning us as Americans and citizens of this country to disregard the hallmarks of our nation and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's being trampled. And most of the young folks don't even know it because you weren't even taught real history. And civics isn't being taught anymore. Like, we were taught to love our country, to have faith in our governments and the way we did everything. Not now. Our system's broken. This one has privilege. This one doesn't. It's all meant to disrupt and take away a patriotic support of our own nations. Why? Way it's easy to say, here's something better to replace it with. It's slavery. It's control. It's just, I've been on this planet now half a century. And I look at myself in the mirror and I don't look like a 50-year-old man to myself. That might be a little bit of arrogance and pride on my part, but I don't feel generally like I'm a 50-year-old man. Now, there's some days are better than others, but generally I don't feel, and I don't think I sound like a 50-year-old man. I certainly don't have the heart of a 50-year-old man. I have a heart of a young man. I'm very passionate about life. I'm passionate about friends and family and the things I do. But I never really thought I would ever see the way the world is right now and how fast things changed. Look how fast things have changed just in the last 2 years. Look how things have changed on a social level, how people interact, even in your own family. Maybe in your family, you have folks that maybe had vaccinations done on themselves and their family members, and you probably didn't. And maybe that's caused division. And maybe you're not friends with people that had that done to them, willingly giving it to themselves. And because you won't do that, then you can't be around us because you're not going to affect my family. You see what that's done? It's almost like the unvaccinated are the new Jews during all the Nazi regime. Want them out. Don't hide any of them. I don't hide the fact that I'm unvaccinated. I champion it. And I don't care who it offends. I knew that that was something that was being rushed. And many physicians are now thinking maybe we didn't have the best information. When reality is they didn't have the best information. It was thrown at them in just a few months. How are you going to know? And now they're coming out saying there was no human trials on some of them. They just rushed it through after showing that the animals were killing them. It was having an effect on the animals, rather. One of the gentlemen that was having the radon fan installed in my house yesterday says, yeah, I got vaccinated, and my buddy I grew up with, he's a pharmacist. and he's the one giving the vaccine, and he gave it to his kids and gave it to his wife and himself, and the whole thing. Long story short, he says, but now he's saying he's second guessing it, and he's wondering if that was the right thing to do. Now, I don't know about you, but how does that leave you as the friend that the pharmacist talked into you getting the shot, and him saying they give their children and his wife and himself the shot? You know, how do you walk away from that conversation and feel good? And it was like you could see the guy was all tore up about it. Like, he was not right. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't take it, and I don't want any of my kids to take it, but my daughter did. She took 2 doses of the Pfizer stuff, and she had issues with nosebleeds and this weird rash that was popping up all over her skin. But praise God, she hasn't had any other episodes. But but it seems like there's been like this 18-month ish time window, and a lot of people are now having issues where they're no longer here. Let's just put it that way. And it's always generally assigned to something with their heart. Quickly, suddenly, they're dead, and or heart defect now is as a result. And I'd be lying if I said I'm not concerned. Like I'm always in prayer for my daughter. And for those of you that are in the faith I have, or just want in your own way, send sentiments that were positive towards my daughter, I would greatly appreciate that, because that's the only source of stress in my life anymore. Like, I don't have any stresses. Nothing bothers me. Nothing worries me. But that does. And I've seen people that were gloating. Oh, I got the shot. Like, I see these people. They were gloating and gloating and gloating. You should have got it. You should have got it. I'm fine. They're dead. They're dead, folks. And I'm hoping that my daughter's not walking around with a time bomb in her. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to do very well. The main point of this discussion was to get you thinking about you can fortify your own personal in your own home. Because if you're like me, you have children, you have a spouse, and 2 spoiled boxers, they all depend on me. And I try to do what I can to inform them, but not scare them. And I'm sure this conversation, if you've been here this long, you're in one of 2 camps. This was disturbing, and I don't buy into any of it, or maybe you're a little alarmed. Take that energy and convert it into checking into what you have in your pantries. How long could you go right now? I'm going to say this, I'm going to close this uh, space. How long could you go right now if you didn't buy anything else before you ran out of food? If it's anything less than 12 months, you're not ready. The worst thing you can do is go out there and buy those in a box or in a bucket survival foods. Don't do that. That stuff's good for you. None of it's good for you. You would be better suited to go out and buy canned goods. And you ever see those in the United States? We have a company called Knorr, Knorr, I believe it is. It's like flavored seasoned rice little things and oatmeal. Like, you can go to like these big box stores and get things of oatmeal, honey. That's a natural sweetener. It never expires. It never goes bad. Sugar, flour, and salt. Main staple foods. rice, pasta, and keep them, in cool, dry locations in a pantry in your house. Water and water filters. Now we use a zero water filter here, and in my experience, I know there's a lot of people out there that like the Berkey water filter. I don't like it. I didn't like it. They actually recently found themselves in some kind of trouble with their filtration system. Look into it, but I saw a couple headlines about it. And you can do what you want to do, but I have been a fan of zero water filters for about 7 years, around about 7 years. It comes out really clean. And our water here in Harford County, if you do the little measurement instrument they give you, you put your metal and particulate meter inside. It'll tell you how much sediment is in your water. Up here in Harford County, it's like 286. So, what does that mean? It doesn't sound good to drink, but it's that. So when you run it through this filter, it literally takes it down to zero particulates, and you can taste the difference. Like it tastes like you would imagine clean water tasting: wet, clean, crisp, no chlorination taste, taste no funkiness, just really good. It doesn't have any odor to it. It cleans the water really good. And I stored up about 300 of these filters. They last about 3 weeks in our house, and we were always running water through them. And I have half a dozen of countertop water distillers. So that way I can literally, every one of the homes I've purchased, every single home I've ever purchased is always by some kind of lake, stream, some kind of, fresh water supply. The homes that I have up here in Harford County are right next to Gunpowder Falls. I strategically picked these locations. They had to have that resource next to them because I could literally walk, get water in a bucket, and then I could distill that water for drinking water. Even if the electricity in the grid goes down, I have ways to run these distillers. I have an old moonshiners distiller too. Not that I drink alcohol, but I could distill water with that too. So I've always lived my life with this preparedness mindset simply because of the things I saw coming. And when I was younger, I just kept my mouth shut about it. Just did things. And when I met women and dated them, they'd say, why do you have all that food? And why do you have all this? And all that? I just, I shop for the month. That was my excuse for them. It was way more than a month's worth of food and supplies, but it was just, I didn't think they would understand. And actually years ago, 20 years ago, they wouldn't have never imagined what we're seeing right now. And I had a lot of students, and yes, I'm closing it out, but I had a lot of students get really offended with me by me encouraging people to get their homes prepared like this. Because in my mind, it's just good living. It, I don't need to go out to the grocery store. I don't need to go. Every one of my homes have at least a year and a half worth of food, but it's whole foods. It's foods that are not like in those emergency food buckets, where it's like heavy, heavy, salty garbage. It's not good for you. You're going to get sick if you live on that stuff for months. Any processed food, it's going to be like that. But I guess, if it's all you have, that's all you have. But you got to consider what you can do. And if you're making money, like if you are now profitable and you're making money, the worst thing you can do is be squandering it and wasting it right now. Going out there buying stuff for image. That if you believe anything that comes out of my mouth ever, and you want to latch onto that, and this is the most important thing, it's this: get your house ready. Sincerely, get your house ready because something really, really bad is coming. And I don't know to the degree and how far it'll take us and how long we got to endure it and what it's going to do, ultimately. But wouldn't it give you more peace of mind knowing that you have at least your house is full of food that you're going to be able to eat that won't perish because it's in canned goods, it's dry goods, things that you can prepare with water, and a way to filter water. And if you have medications, ask your doctor if they give you an extra supply of it. And they're not wanting to do much of it, since all this pandemic stuff happened. But you have to do what you got to do. And that way, by having this out of the way, and then as you use it, replace it. And yes, that means you have to be organized. You have to know how many cans of green beans you have, how many cans of tuna you have, how many cans of chicken you have, and what's the expiration date on it. Let me tell you something. I've eaten things all my life over 2 years old in canned goods. They don't expire unless that can is bloated and misshapen. If it's got a dent, I never eat it. I don't care if the expiration is like 2 years from now. I just bought it. If I find a dented can, I throw it away. But botulism isn't going to get you, okay? Just because it's 2 years past expiration. That food is sealed up. If you keep it in a cool, dark location, that food will last years. And rice and sugar, those things, dried beans, they can last 20 years if you vacuum seal. Well, not sugar, you don't want to vacuum seal that. Like with an oxygen absorber, you don't want to do that. But like salt, you want to have things to season your food. And I got all kinds of fishing tackle on things because when I was younger, I used to do a lot of fishing. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to accumulate more of this stuff. And now, I'm in an area. We're by the bay. There's plenty ways for me to get crab, fish. You know, everybody up here is thinking I'm going out with my 30-06 and I'm going to go get me a deer and I'll be able to eat for the year. Everybody's going to be doing that. And there won't be any deer. And there won't be any rabbits. And there won't be any squirrels. That's the first stuff that's going to go. What's the food source that's going to be the most abundant? Fish. You got to be able to catch them. Can you swim faster than a fish? So you got to get some tackle on you. Right. So that's my Robinson Crusoe podcast for you tonight. A little bit of 1984 mixed in there with some pottery. But it was meant sincerely to get you thinking about what's coming. I am not wrong. I don't know the exact day, but I absolutely know between now and May, we are in for some craziness. It may be even sooner than that, but that's the window. And you need to have your house prepared. Over-the-counter medicines, a way to stay warm, a way to light your house when the power goes in, because it's going out. Europe, if you're in Europe, you're in the Eurozone in the UK, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. And you should be finding ways to extra blankets, candles, means of lighting your home should the power go out, and staying warm. How are you going to stay warm? If the power goes out, how do you stay warm? In the States, you can procure yourself a wood burning stove. You can cook on that. And plus, it'll heat your house too. Something to think about. All of this is important, and it has its place in a investor's mindset, because what you're doing is you're hedging. Food prices are going way up. The canned chickens that I bought, cases and cases and cases of, they're about double now. just in 7 months. They're telling all of the folks that raise cattle and crops, you can't. You can't do as much as you could before. Fertilizer costs are too expensive now. So what does that mean? The yield on all of these things, livestock and crop, next year is opportunity for us in the marketplace, but it's also opportunity for you to starve. What good is it if you have all that money and you can't buy it because it's not on the shelf? Think, folks. I know it probably doesn't seem practical or likely that it's going to happen. It's coming. It is absolutely coming. And if you don't make your house ready, you will be starving. You will be stressed out. You will not be able to focus on the markets with a clear mindset, and you will be a mess. So, yes, I'm hoping that you'll listen to me and make your house ready because it'll help you stay focused as a trader. I don't care about the trading part. I don't want to see you starving. I don't want to see you going through hardships because that's what everybody else is going to feel. Even some of my friends. And they're going to come to me and say, Michael, you have a lot of money. Can you help us? I can't if it's not in the store. I can't put gas in your vehicle to help you get to where you got to get to if the pumps don't have it. How much do you have to see to not understand that all of this is engineered? Every aspect of it's meant for a complete and utter collapse. They don't want us being able to move around, operating businesses, and also getting food and goods delivered. Why would they want to do that? They'd be losing so much money. They already own all the money, folks. Anybody that says that, that's a myopic perspective. These people print money at the thinner. They don't need you to spend the thing they create. There's too many of us. This is the culling, the thinning of the herd. There's too many of us, and some of us just don't want to comply, no matter what. And they want to kind of like phase that part of us out or starve it out or inject it out or maybe microwave it out. I don't know how much SPF you need for a bomb, but I'm not living my life worrying about a bomb. I'm expecting it. If it lands in Harford County, whatever. You're about to see that somewhere because it has to be scarier than COVID. And it has to be scarier than a terrorist hitting the plane into a building. It has to be scarier than some unseen anthrax stuff, some biological thing. Nobody's worrying about that anymore. So what's the terrible, fearful thing that could be created? Nuclear fallout. You can't smell it. Can't see it. Shelter in place. So if you have to shelter in place, how long can you go before you starve or die of thirst? You have bottled water in your house? Might be time to get some. Over-the-counter pain medicine, stress from all this possibly going on. A headache is just a nuisance, but a headache when you can't think and can't leave your house, now it becomes debilitating. You got to think, folks. Things that you use every day right now. Do you have a supply of that stuff? Advil, Tylenol, naproxen, over-the-counter pain medicines. If you have any doubts about your prescriptions for like your eyes and things, go get them updated. I just went and got backups of all my glasses. That way I have 9 pairs of glasses. I'm certain I'm going to break a pair of them. It won't. It won't ruin me. I'll be able to see. I have lots of cars. They're always topped off. But eventually, if what I'm seeing coming, I'll run out of gas. And then I'll have garage keepers. They'll be sitting in the garage and not moving. We're about to see that. Will it be Mad Max Thunderdome type level? I don't know. But I am trying to convey the idea to you that if you're trying to be an investor and you're trying to build a life that is comfortable, better than the average life that you've lived, if you do not do these types of things, it may not be a year. Maybe you can't afford a year's worth of non-perishable food. I understand that. Try to do the best you can. That's all I'm saying. Just do that, and as you use it, replace it. It'll give you peace of mind. In best case scenario, nothing happens, and you don't have to go grocery shopping for a couple months. But it's an insurance policy that yields dividends that if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. Wish I could leave the conversation on a good note, but how do you leave a conversation like this on a good note? That's why I was putting it off for as long as I have, because I know what I wanted to say and I know what I wanted to cover. But the outro, I don't know. I don't know a effective and socially acceptable closure to it. So I'll just say, I hope you found it insightful. It wasn't meant to scare you. And until next time, be safe.